All right, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Show and Tell After Dark, where we talk about all things art, all things music, all things Boston. My name is Cricket Smith. I am your host tonight. I got my man to the left of me, Tatas. Say what's up, Tata.
What's up?
And tonight we have a very, very, very special guest. Not only is she a mom, but she is, from what I saw, just an amazing human being. And I want to get this right, so I got it in my notes because we want to introduce this amazing lady properly. So to the right of me, we have Representative Tyler, Miss Chynah Tyler from the 7th Suffolk District. Hey.
Nice.
Miss Representative Tyler, I'm a little nervous.
Don't be. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. It's an honor to be here. So thank y'all so much for having me.
Thank
I
you for
appreciate
coming,
it.
for taking the time out of your schedule
course.
to even just be here. I'm excited because I'm not from Boston. I'm from Georgia. But to see somebody just love their city,
Yes.
because I love it too. I've been here for less than a decade, but I love this city. And just from the interviews that I watched, I just really appreciate how much about community you're about. And I think that's so important and very, very, very underrated, especially when you got life going on and you have, a job and kids and just so much stuff going on. At the center of it all, it's really about family and community. So I love that about you.
Thank you.
So I'm happy that you're here. Speaking of, that's actually my first question. What does community mean to you?
So again, thank you for having me. This is really a true honor to be able to be here and to be able to have a conversation with you all that will then, echo out into the world. And I hope that folks really gain a lot from this conversation. If I have to come back to explain more things, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Please.
So first, very many on the podcast. So your question, that's a really great question. What does community mean to me?
Yes, ma'am.
Community means... let's see. I'll give you this is a real podcast. I won't give you my regular all definitions.
Yeah.
Okay.
They told me just go with the flow with
Yeah.
this one. So community means family to me, and community means to pour into someone. I really base what I do when it comes to being in the legislature on empowering people. A lot of folks kind of use these platforms for their self-promotion, for
Right.
themselves to become the next mayor, the next senator, the next whatever it is. But for me, it's to be able to pour into folks. That way folks are empowered to be able to then, grow in life and receive, freedom, whatever that means to them. So for me, a lot of it is economic freedom. So I teach a lot of folks how to become economically free. So, yeah.
You're teaching those classes yourself, or are you saying?
Oh, no. So through my work,
Okay.
and through the legislation that I write, I make sure that I make a point to be able to teach folks how to become free through economics.
Are you saying there's like resources for people who are like not like financially savvy or economically savvy to like go to?
Absolutely, yeah. So first of all, getting them a little bit more comfortable with understanding what actually is going on here.
Okay.
Every year, I do two things. I write laws and pass them, which we've had many successes on. And number two, I balance a budget, a $43 billion budget with my colleagues on the
Ma'am.
State House. Yes.
A bee?
Bees on bees. Bees on bees. And so through that, we're able to create platforms for folks to be able to get educated as to how they can become independent. The worker mentality is really just not, it's not it.
Right,
And a
right.
lot of folks are
It's not
very,
it.
very talented. And I really want to be able to uplift that in folks. And if folks can just see their worth and see, what, their creativity and really recognize the greatness within themselves,
That's right.
then they would just go up from there. So that's
I love that.
that's what community is to me, empowering folks.
That made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Rep Tyler, what is the most what's a bill that you've passed that you're most proud of?
Oh, there. So they say I'm gonna take a victory lap here. So they say it takes about 10 years to pass a bill.
Oh, wow.
But I have been very grateful to be able to pass many bills, and this is only my 6th year.
Wow.
And one that I am very proud about amongst very many. First of all, I have to talk about education. So disclosure.
Charter schools.
Tata and I actually went to high school together.
Actually, no, I was in middle school. You were in high school.
Well, same.
Yeah,
They got the 7th through 12th grade going on. But it's very,
Whoa.
when I was a 5th grader, I lost my brother to gun violence here in the city of Boston. And I had a great opportunity to go to a school. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. So we didn't have a car back then, humble beginnings. I don't come from a rich family or anything like that. And we were walking to Nubian Station, and we were getting on the bus, and my mom got a flyer from this guy that was like handing out flyers to her school. And I was zoned to the school that was near my home, but that was also too where my brother had lost his life, unfortunately. So to not relive that trauma, my mom was looking for something else.
Right.
So she gets this flyer to the school. We end up at the orientation on Saturday because my mom doesn't play any games. And she said, we're going. And I hated everything about that school. And she loved everything about that school. And that school obviously did numbers for me. It gave me the confidence socially, emotionally, and academically to be confident enough to excel. And it was just up from there.
I went to that school from 2nd grade to 12th grade.
Yeah.
Wait, there's schools in Boston from 2nd grade to 12th grade?
Yeah, there's a lot going on in Boston. There's a lot of grade configurations, to be very specific, but there are many schools that go from K all the way to 12th. Yes.
So from that experience, are you like really pro charter schools?
I'm pro what parents want for their kids.
Right.
To be very specific. Yes, I'm a very proud charter school alum, Roxbury Prep, Prospect Hill Academy. I'm very, very proud about that. But I'm pro what parents want for their kids, because parents, you are the first teacher. You're the first, and I see that you're pregnant, so congratulations.
Thank you.
You're going to be the first person to know what your kid wants and needs.
Yep.
In order to be able to fulfill that, we have to be able to provide those opportunities for our parents, and so that's what I'm all about.
Yeah, that is very, very, very important. And for me, I'm all about education. Even now, I have a 1-year-old, and even before having him, I was always into education. Before I professionally, I'm a licensed cosmetologist and a makeup artist, but before that, I went to school to be a teacher. But even now, just the earlier you start with your child, the absolute best.
Our kids can. And so I was very proud to be able to pass a bill to be able to pour into that and to financially help, stabilize our school systems.
Right.
Our students aren't doing what we know they can do. And leadership, unfortunately, in our school systems, they don't really believe in our kids, particularly kids of color. And so one of the big bills that I'm very proud of is to be able to pour into that. The bill is called the Student Opportunity Act. It pretty much was an education reform bill, the first one that we've done in 20 years. And so I was very proud to be able to do that. And it's very controversial. I am the only charter school alum to be a state legislator here in Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So we're showing them what it looks like to have access to a great academic experience, because it's not just a school, it's not after school, it's not basketball, soccer, whatever. It's the entire experience. And when the kids are happy, they're going to excel. So that's a strong number one, but a very close number two. I also too have been affected, and many people in my district this is the most incarcerated corridor down Blue Hill Ave. I know we all here live off of Blue Hill Ave somehow, some way, and this is the most incarcerated corridor. And so I remember when I was much young, my youngest memories were actually visiting my brother in prison, and we used to be like, yo, don't call home too much because we can't afford for you to keep calling home. And so we just passed a really big bill, which was my bill that I'm very proud about, to make telephone calls in all penal institutions here in the Commonwealth free. So I'm very proud about that. Yeah.
That's a blessing.
Yes.
How did you do that?
We make it do what it do. It takes a lot of work. But, telling
Make it do what it
stories,
do.
we are all affected by
That's crazy.
some common denominators. And when we start talking and we get in the community, we can understand what those things are. And we're doing something about it. So I'm excited to be there.
That's amazing. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
That education reform bill, what did that bill really entail? Like, what was going on there?
Yeah, so when we pass bills, so as individual legislators, we write our own pieces that hopefully make it into the big piece. So the couple of pieces that I was responsible for, one was data. Like, that's great, that we're pouring into our education system, but I want to make sure that our black and brown boys who are doing not well, I want those numbers back. I want to make sure that their not so great grades are turning into great grades and they're on their way to Harvard, for example. And so accountability was a big part of that. If we're going to give you this money, I want to make sure that our kids are being taught what I know they can, because they can learn. Our kids are amazing. they're the best ever.
Mhm.
And so when we're pouring into that, I want to make sure that I'm getting the return on my investment back. So that's
That
number
makes sense
one.
to me.
Number two was guidance counselors. That's really, really big. Every school now has a family liaison and also 2 guidance counselors in the schools.
Wow.
And, it's not really, again, it's an experience. It's not just about the teaching. The teachers are teaching. They're supposed to
Right.
be teaching,
Right.
not
Right. Right.
Yeah.
getting
They
your
have
kid
one
right,
job.
not, being a guidance counselor, what have you. And so every school now has a guidance counselor and a family liaison to really help navigate that education experience or the academic experience, because it's an institution.
Right.
School's an institution.
Yes, it is.
And when Black folks face institutions,
Yep.
it can be a very bearing thing. And so we do whatever we can to make sure that all schools have guidance counselors. And what else was there in that bill? Those are the 2 things that I'm most proud about.
Yeah.
But the return
makes
on my
sense.
investment, like, I want to make sure we turn things around. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
And did you
Oh, totally.
so what caused you to write that bill? What I was saying, like, Black women are doing like amazing now, like with education and things. But like, is it true that like Black men are like we're steadily like declining, or?
Yeah, so black folks in general, African Americans, we are the most educated like group of folks throughout here in America. Most folks would have graduated from high school, would have went to college, or have some type of skill. You just said you went to school to be a teacher. That's amazing. And we went to school together, so I already know where your academic experience was, you know. And so Black men in particular have the lowest scores when it comes to just like the MCAS and all those things that we use, all those metrics we use to be able to tell how a student's doing. Black boys, to be very specific, aren't doing the best. And how I see that being addressed is making sure that they have a culturally competent experience. I'm not a Black man, but I have brothers, and it's real hard being y'all.
Yeah.
And so you got to turn that around and make sure that once a kid is happy and they feel like they're being submerged in a place that's just positive in general, they will do very well. So yeah.
That makes sense.
155%. My next question for you, Rep Tyler, because you are from Roxbury, right?
Born and
You was
raised.
born and raised, right?
Generational.
Nice.
You proud of living in
Hey,
Roxbury, huh?
Yes.
And I feel like you represent it well. So my next
Thank
question is, you're welcome. How has the lens of being a politician affected the way that you see Boston, and most especially your home of Roxbury?
Yes. How has it affected how I see Roxbury? Well, it's interesting because if it weren't for that, if it weren't for my mom getting that piece of paper to go to that school,
Yeah.
then the access is really limited when it comes to people of color here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So they say Massachusetts is number 1 for all this and that, for education, for jobs, for careers, but it's actually number 1 for some. And the some is not us. So we have to be able to do something about that. And so how I, try to do my best to be able to address that is making sure that folks have access to opportunities. So whatever's out there, if I'm in a meeting and they got it over in Newton, they got that in Wellesley, whatever, how can we get that back here to Boston, back in Roxbury, whatever that is? And so, you just got to be more aware and build relationships.
Right.
Being successful in this job is all about relationships.
Right.
And I have some amazing colleagues who have served for just as long as I've been alive. Honestly,
Yeah.
somebody that I know that I'm very close to began serving the year I was born, and they are
Wow.
it's a very old institution.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they have a lot to offer, and I'm very grateful to be a part of it.
How did you even get into politics? Like, was that always like your end goal?
Oh no! So to be real with y'all,
Nope.
When I started college, I went to Northeast University. When I started, I thought I was gonna be an astronaut, but then I took Chem 1, and that was done. after that.
No.
So then I said, all right, well, what else is there? So, I was always, my family personal story, my brother's being incarcerated, losing my brother to gun violence. Like, I wanted to do something social justice oriented. And so I found criminal justice. And by the time I realized that criminal justice was not criminal justice, it was policing. It was everything what I thought it wasn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was already like a junior, so it was no turning back, and I was on
Right.
scholarship. So we just had to finish that degree out. But I got my first job out of college working at a federal pre-release center, helping gentlemen who served 10, 20, 30 years in prison get their, back reintegrated back into the community. So housing, education, and whatever they needed, my job was to, within 6 months of their probation or going home, to get them what they needed. And so I was really inspired by that, because a lot of folks a lot of those guys weren't getting access to opportunity because they had a Corey, because they had a record. So I felt like, hey, you served your time, you should be able to, get access, but the access was always like cut because they had this, this past.
Right.
And that's what really inspired me to get into politics, because that's my story. That's all our stories. Somebody in our family had been locked up or had an experience that really, it was a hiccup, and then it just cut you off from getting access to opportunity. And so everything that I do moving forward is to make sure that our folks have access to every opportunity that's out there. And traditionally, it has been intentional to keep us out of that.
Right.
So, for
Yep.
example, the workforce, right? Unions were created to keep black folks out of the workforce. And so we're
Wow.
turning those things around. And so I'm all about that. And I'm really excited to do that.
Was it intimidating to like actually run for
Oh,
representative?
nah. I'm like, no, I was in the game. You know me. I played basketball.
Yeah.
I brought our school to 2, 3, 4 championships,
Yeah.
MVP mad years. You already know. So listen, and when I'm in the game, I'm in it to win it, and I never do anything that I, don't think that I'm going to be able to be successful at. And so just jumped in there.
You ain't never scared, Rep Tyler. I saw the interview you did a couple years ago, and the lady asked, I think she said something like, "Do you fear for your life?" You was like, "Girl, no, I'm good. I am the security."
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I always row 100 deep. My family's always with me.
Yeah.
I try to make this an experience, but being scared for what? you
Right,
know?
be scared for what?
Yeah, for what?
Totally.
What advice would you give like say black women who are wanting to run for for any like political
Anything?
roles? Yeah.
First of all, don't run against anybody that's already there that's black. So this is a
Really?
rank and file
sense.
situation.
Yeah.
You know
Wait,
what I'm
how
saying?
come?
So politics, the government is a ranking file institution. When you're in for many years, you move up. And if you're running against somebody that looks like you, that has kind of the same values as you, why don't you just go and support them? A lot of folks don't,
Right.
want to support other people, but I'm all about supporting.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say to that. Yeah. Yeah.
Very
That
interesting.
makes sense to
Yeah.
me.
I didn't even think. I've never even thought about that actually.
Figure out what you could do to help them out. type
Exactly.
thing,
Right.
Because once they get up and then you knock them off, then we just lost that leadership spot as a collective.
Right. And now we
You know what
got
I'm
to
saying? So,
support you and figure out
yeah.
what you do.
as a freshman, and then you're not going to get access to, as a freshman, you're not going to get access to getting $1 million for one thing or getting $2 million. You're going to start from the beginning. You're just pretty much everything's just going to go right over your head.
Whew.
So figure out what you could do for your folks, not how you can, knock them off.
Right.
How is the support system right now for like what you say black folks in the political atmosphere in Boston?
Support. The support is changing. I feel like we have our own wave now. We're creating a new wave. I'm very grateful to be here. This podcast is a part of that wave. Thrill, for example, is a part of that wave. I'm a part of that wave. I just passed 30 years old, so there's a new narrative out there that we're trying to recreate
Right.
when it comes to support in politics. And when you know you can do something, a lot of the times I didn't know anybody in politics prior to getting into politics. Right, my family was not into politics. I mean,
Yeah.
I went to go vote, but when I went to go vote, I voted for whoever my mother voted for.
Right.
Like, it wasn't all that serious like that. But when it comes to support, I would say that there's not very much support because people don't really. First of all, out of 200 state legislators, which is what they are, there are 5 black folks. There's 16 people of color, black and Latino, and of the 16, 5 are black. 2 are leaving. One of them may be leaving, so that's going to be down to just only like 2 or 3 of us. And so there's not a lot of support, but you have to create that support. You
Yes.
have to blaze that trail.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I've been doing a lot of work of just blazing that trail and telling our stories, and have been able to pass many bills that speak to getting us to be financially free.
Right.
So it's working out.
Right.
Hell yeah.
I read a couple months ago that black people in Boston make 8 cents to the dollar that their white counterparts make. Is that true?
Yeah. So that number, it's $8. The general net worth of a black individual, it's $8. That number came from a study that was done by the Federal Reserve, and they're we all educated here. Their study and how they put those numbers together was a little bit suspect.
Right.
They apologize for you kind of tweaking the numbers and skewing the numbers, but the reality is that we don't have access to wealth. Like, we're first-time home buyers in 2020.
Right.
People that don't look like us, their family been having a house on Martha's Vineyard since 100 years ago.
That's
So
right.
we are way behind. So that $8 number, I would definitely say is true. And what you can do to address that and to be able to combat that is, again, make sure that our folks have access to opportunity when it comes to either you're going to work and be in the workforce and be in a traditionally white space that doesn't look like us. So, for example, the firefighter industry, right? The firefighter industry is here in the city of Boston was upwards to 95% white male, right? Not just white, it's like white male, very specific.
Right.
And so another bill that I was very proud to be able to put forth was to be able to create a cadet program for people of color, so that way you can train up to then get into it. And so we're turning those numbers around. The gentleman that I worked with, it's a Black Firefighters Union, which is the Vulcans. And I want to give a shout out to Daryl, who's the president. He just got made a district chief. So
What's
shout
up,
out to
Mr.
Daryl,
Darryl?
Mr. Higginbottom, Chief Higginbottom. So we
Coming to the show, Mr. Darryl.
we
We
would
want
be
to
very
talk.
happy to hear that. But creating those pathways for folks to be able to get into the
Right.
workforce, or
That's
if you want to
amazing.
own your own business, you may not want to work, and you may just say, "I can't work for nobody." Right? That's a lot of folks that work for. They work for me, but they can't work for nobody
Right,
else.
right.
But you should be able to create an avenue for folks to be able to own their own business, and not just own your own business, but figure out how to sustain it also.
Right, right,
And those
right,
are two
right.
totally different things.
Totally.
Yeah, so we invest in that.
Yes.
Sorry, I was remiss to mention that this year, in the past 2 years, I'm the chairwoman of the Black and Latino Caucus here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And so I work with Governor Baker, myself and the caucus work with Governor Baker to be able to expend $75 million to pretty much a trust fund where mostly Black folks then got grants to be able to start their businesses as COVID relief. So it's working out. It's working out. So if y'all want to start your business, now is the time. Now is the time.
I need to talk to you, Rep. Tyler.
We can talk after this.
Talk after the show.
Other than that, what else have you been working on?
I've been working on a lot of
Working
things.
towards.
Definitely making sure that folks have access to opportunity is number
Yeah.
one. And with that, when it comes to the prison industry, making sure that folks have a real opportunity at a second chance is probably something that literally rises to the top. Like what's happening out here when it comes to the world, and like the intentionality behind breaking Black folks down and using our power to build their wealth is a real thing. And so changing that narrative is something that I'm very proud to be able to like be hands-on with this year.
When you say
Yeah.
second chance, are you talking about like, because generally like after you get out of like prison, you're like everyone says like, yeah, your life is kind of like over. Are you talking about like being able to like smoothly transition back into like a regular life?
Right. So when you serve your time, it's done.
Right. It should be
You
done.
already served your time.
Yeah.
You should be able to move on from that.
Right.
But there are a lot of things that are beholding, and won't let you get an actual real second chance. And so getting folks a real second chance is very important to me. So, for example, we just passed a really big bill to make the adult use of cannabis legal here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Oh, nice.
So y'all see all these cannabis stores opening
Yeah, popping up. Literally
Yes.
popping up.
That was like that was like one of the first bills that I passed that I was like
That
really,
was you,
really
Rep.
excited about. Yeah,
Hey.
well, it's a collective effort, but as a 26-year-old being a state rep for 3 months, like that was a pretty
Wow.
cool like
Yeah.
first time bill
That's
to be able to do,
huge.
right?
Yeah.
That's huge.
And so giving folks a real second
It's
chance when it
huge.
came to that industry was workforce for me, because I knew that you can't get money for cannabis through the banks because it's really not legal on a federal level. So you gotta
Right.
come with cash to be able to open up a store or start gummies or make your infused drink or whatever it is. So I really wanted to focus on the workforce because this is the first industry that we've established since Prohibition. And there hasn't been one since then. This is before all of us in here, right? And so what I did was work with a friend to be able to found the first in the nation Jails to Jobs workforce and development program in the cannabis industry.
Oh, nice.
And so you got to have been incarcerated to get into this program. So that's the first
not
pretty
to
cool
commit a
thing.
crime.
And so we're all out, right? And what it does, it's a 3-part program, and it gives you free legal services throughout the time. So that way, when you go through it, your record will be sealed. You'll get in school. You get some soft skills. You get your resume right. You come out of
wow,
prison,
yeah.
you don't really have all those soft
Right,
skills.
you don't.
And then you get a paid internship in the cannabis industry. And if it works out for you, then we will get you into the industry. And so it's a 12-week program. It's called Mass Cultivate Ed. And so getting a second chance, again, that's an example of getting the real second chances to being able to enter an industry without having, people discriminated against
Right.
you because you put your name you put your name spelled differently on the
Right.
paper, and then they're like, "Oh, pass on that." No,
Right.
we're doing well with that. So that program just graduated its first class, and it graduated 100% succession rate.
Oh, wow.
I make sure I fund it up. I do whatever I can to make sure it has funding to be able to thrive. And so that's an example of a second chance, and I'm really proud about that.
You're going
So
in.
shout out to Ryan,
you're
executive
going
director. He's
crazy.
out there. So
That's
yeah.
amazing. You're doing a lot.
Yeah.
When it gets hard, or if it gets hard, what do you do to keep going, or what keeps you going?
What keeps me going?
Yeah.
It does get hard very often. It's very hard. So a lot of my colleagues, like, I just turned 32 years old. Like, a lot of my colleagues are not in their 30s. Like, my next
Right.
colleague is like very far in age. There may be
Right.
a couple of us that are in their 30s, maybe 2, but the rest of them are not, in our age bracket. But
Right.
when it gets hard, music really is like life to me. I love music.
Too.
I'm like, my campaign manager is gonna kill me for saying this, but like, I'm the 4th member of the Migos.
What?
So there's that. So I love music. I love music, so listening to music really helps. Music is therapy, so
Yes,
and
it
all
is.
art is therapy. So,
Yep.
music is what I do to help like get there. So on my way to work, what I listen to.
What's
Oh,
your
no, it's a
What's your
thing.
go-to song to hype you up? One.
Oh, my go-to song.
Just
what,
one.
What genre do y'all want? Because I got a couple of different ones.
We want that Migos.
Oh, the Migos.
Yeah. What Migos song you like? All right. This is my work song.
Just like a
Hey. Come on, Migos. Come sit with Reptile. Let it get you right.
Exactly. Yes. So I'm excited about that.
That's what's up.
Amongst many others. But I'll
Yeah.
tell you after the podcast.
Okay. That's when the real podcast is. That's the real After Dark. All right. My next question for you, Rep Tyler. So my next question, because I don't know nothing about politics. Like,
Okay.
Nothing.
Let's change that.
Yeah, let's change
Let's
that.
change that.
Is this, I don't know if this is the right phrasing, but are you running for election this year?
So this is an election year for me. Yes.
Okay. And what is like your plan for getting reelected, or do you have a plan, or do you just keep doing what you're doing, and the people that have been supporting you will more than likely support you for this election?
Yes. So at a point in time, there was someone that was interested, a couple folks that were interested in trying to run against me, but that didn't work out too well for them. So there's that.
God stepped in.
Because not only God on my side, but the community. Like, I do a lot of work in the community and empowering folks. And there are some folks that are really empowered and live some amazing lives if it weren't for our relationship. And so I do whatever I can to make sure that we, push that in the campaign. And so we can go anywhere you want. And you tell me, what type of rep I am, and we'll go from there. So we'll try it out.
I can already tell what type of rep. I can already tell what type of representative you are. You can just tell. I'm a great judge of character. I trust myself.
Okay,
I'm
judge me.
Huge on energy, and you really give a damn.
Yes,
and you can tell, like,
Right.
you, just the way that you speak, the way that you talk, the way that you are relatable to not only the people, but just the community. The community, that word is so undervalued and so underappreciated, because like without the community, like you really.
Right, yeah, nothing.
You don't got nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You don't
I come
have
from a big
anything.
community too. My family, for example, my immediate community, and my family, we're 300 deep. So
Oh, wow.
if you see me, you're probably gonna see me with 300 people, and they're probably all my family,
I'm
mother, auntie,
scared.
and them.
That
So,
family reunion
yeah.
must be lit.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a lot. It's going down. Yeah, it is for sure. But yes.
Community.
On that note, let's take a little break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, let's go.